deal over there.
Raiders of the Lost Arts. Sounds like a new motion picture? No, it's a new videotape we're doing at the 7th annual Career Days for the youngsters at Northern Adirondack Central School, the elementary school here in Champlain. I've got to tell our viewers, if it looks like we've already been doing this for a half an hour, you're right. We had a technical difficulty with one of our tapes after about 5 delicious interviews, which I enjoyed thoroughly, which you probably will never see on Hometown Cable or Our Little Corner. We've been here, Calvin's been here for about 5 years, and I've been here for about 3 years, joining the kids and the presenters at the craft day. This year they thought they'd do something a little bit different in recalling how things were, how technology has changed, how the arts have changed down through the years. There have been projects involving kids talking with their grandparents and great-grandparents about how things were done in the old days. Some of the youngsters in 2nd grade did displays. You can see some antiques. Mrs. Bronson, who teaches 2nd grade here, interviewed the kids and had the kids interview their grandparents so they could compare life now with the way life used to be. We have presenters from the New York State Police, Diana Cogan. We have a wonderful lady, Mary Ellen Tomo, who is carding wool and spinning wool for the kids. We have other people talking about various aspects of show business. Those are spotlights. We have a smoke making machine over there. We have Bernie Bassett, the principal, who is showing kids music and how things have changed through the years. Bernie told us in the beginning that he was going to wear many hats today, and he was absolutely correct. We have a number of people represented here. The Culinary Arts are represented by our friend Mike Mishler from CV Tech. We have the Boy Scouts here showing a video about Camp Bedford and talking about the Boy Scouts, and a narration that I had done on their videotape years ago. I didn't even remember doing it until I heard the voice. We have the post office represented here, and we have hundreds and hundreds of kids. And that's the best part of the whole thing, getting the kids together, giving them an indication what life was like 40, 50, 70, 80, or 100 years ago, and in some ways, for example, with the spinning, helping them to restore that by actually learning how to do it. Kids love it, people love it, the teachers seem to get a tremendous big kick out of it, and as we did some, once again, those mystery interviews we did on this tape that didn't turn out because the tape folded over included a description of how they started way back in June planning for this particular event today. They've done it for a long time. It's the envy of many of the other schools in the area. It's a great experience for the kids and a wonderful experience for us to come back here again and to have you get a look as parents and grandparents yourself at how they do things right at one school here in the North Country and many others as well. We're going to try to recreate some of the interviews we did, but you know, we're going to practice till we get it right anyway. We just came back and said to Bev Southwick, Champlain Telephone Company, Bev Southwick. Bev, see, the name Southwick is too connected with this company.
Yes, it
Bev
is.
Lamberton, sorry about that.
That's quite all right.
But we're back to talk to you all over again. In our original interview, we talked about your illustrious son and his stock car racing, and he's doing good, isn't he?
Mark's done very well this year. He had some problems, but we got over those, and he ended the season very well.
We talked about how we've been connected with stock car racing in the North Country for a long time as fans, how we used to broadcast the races on the radio, all the people we knew, and how this program, Our Little Corner, did a very nice historical sketch. Did you happen to watch that?
I sure did.
Kind of neat, isn't it?
Very nice. It was nice to hear the history of Airborne.
Now let's talk a little bit about Champlain Telephone Company. How long have you been connected with them, Bev?
I've been connected with Champlain Telephone Company for 31 years.
Isn't that amazing? All these young women who say 31 years, you look like you're about 34, so as a very small child, your parents sat you on top of a telephone booth.
Yes, and from there I continued ever since.
Let's just talk a little bit about what you're doing here today.
Northern Adirondack invited Champlain Telephone Company and our subsidiary, Primelink, to come and help with Career Day at Northern Adirondack, and we're enjoying it.
What do we got on the wall here? I noticed a lot of pictures of neat phones that kids have done.
Back in September, we had open house at Champlain Telephone, and the Northern Adirondack, because many of the students come from Altona, which Champlain Telephone Company service, they partake in doing Phone of the Future. So they did drawings and exhibits, and we displayed them at our open house. And on the wall today are some of the students' artwork that Northern Adirondack did for us for our open house. Many of the students came in first and second place in our contest. So today, a lot of the children that are coming in are noticing their artwork being displayed.
It's kind of neat, and I'm sure some of the parents and grandparents will see this wonderful artwork that the kids have done. Isn't it great to connect with the little kids?
It sure is. They just come out with wonderful ideas and suggestions, and they're comical. We enjoy it.
What things are you going to talk to kids about today, Bev?
We're going to talk to the children today about phones, past phones and phones of the future today. We have old telephones with, when you had to the rotary, and then right up to the cell phones that we have here today, and pagers. And they're quite, when the students come up and look at these little pagers, they're quite interested.
It's amazing. Technology is phenomenal with satellites and all kinds of fiber optics and things like that. It's and digital things. It's a far cry from the way it was when I was a young boy, when telephones were on the wall with the earpiece and the mouthpiece, and there was no rotary dial. You simply picked up the phone and turned the crank and got a hold of whoever the operator was, wherever she was. And we were talking about prefixes, Axminster, Jordan, and the others. And Calvin, what was your phone number? 11Y11.
All I remember is my 236.
236.
Yes.
But before that, we had actual names, AX for Axminster and JO. I can remember people calling on the old swap shop programs. My number is J0313. Isn't it? We have come a long ways, and kids like to see what the old days were like, don't they?
Yes, I think most of us are kids at heart, and we love to go back to history and find out what's gone on before us.
I think some kids are waiting for you.
Yes, we have another class just coming in.
We'll let you get to work with them, Bev. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's Bev, and her name is Lamberton, not Southwick. And you'll notice how Steve is supposed to be talking here, and he just took off. Each time we came here, he took off. Some neat telephones here, by the way. Some of these see-through telephones to show you what technology. It works the same way, but that is so light. And if you remember the old telephones made out of Bakelite, tremendously heavy handpiece. The cords were not coiled. This cord probably has been added to replicate what the old ones used to look like. But in the old days, they were brown cloth-covered cords, and they didn't coil very well compared to the way cords coil now. The sound on the telephone wasn't digital back then, and it sounded far different. Now we do have satellites involved, and we have lots and lots of beautiful children coming in to join us today. Aren't these the best-looking kids you have ever seen in your life? They're ready to have a good time in here for the Career Day. It's so great to connect with the young children and watch them operate. Eventually, we'll be talking with Roger Rodriguez again at Primelink, a very interesting guy who's in charge of all the Primelink websites, as we learned before in our interview, which never made it on the air, but this one perhaps will. We'll walk around the room and talk to some other people who aren't busy talking to kids as we continue broadcasting our coverage of the 7th Annual Career Day at Northern Adirondack Central School. Mrs. Bronson is a second grade teacher here at Northern Adirondack Elementary School in Ellenburg, and she has a very tastefully displayed project here. She had her second graders interviewed. The kids went to interview their grandparents and their great-grandparents, so they would be able to compare life years ago with life as it is here in the Northern Tier today. And as she said on the poster on the wall, we enjoyed sharing their favorite games, their experiences, their hobbies, and their careers. And she wanted to thank all the grandparents who helped to make this a successful project. We talked with a youngster that was here before, Corey, who showed us a picture of her grandparents' home. And I said, "What is that picture over on the right-hand side?" And she said, "That's a picture of my grandparents, my Mimi and my Pepe, walking down their driveway." And this entire project is called Raiders of the Lost Arts. And Mrs. Bronson brought many of these items from home. She said her husband loaded up the vehicle and brought them here today. You'll see from left to right a couple of kind of neat things. This is an ancient ironing board. On the table are yearbooks. This dates me because this says Deborah Knapp's grandmother's 1956 yearbook. I graduated from high school in 1955, and this is the Saranac Lake High School. 1956, the senior class, volume 30, so you know how long they've been doing it. My wife graduated from the old high school up there at Petrova, Saranac Lake, and here's Deborah Knapp's mother's 1981 yearbook. So we're covering the generations here. These pictures are just delightful. You'll see the old hay forks that we've seen. We went to a farming museum up in Quebec that they put together for one of their historical anniversary celebrations, which was decent. We've talked a great deal on this program about the quilting bees and making quilts by hand, and how the ladies would come in at night and spread out the quilting racks, wicker baskets, old crocks that are really decent because we used to preserve pickles and lots of other things in crocks. This is a beautiful pitcher and bowl set. It says they used hand pumps in the kitchen and kept pitchers and bowls in bedrooms to wash in. And the hand pumps in the kitchen were generally connected not with a fresh water source, but with rainwater in a cistern either on the roof or down cellar. This is the soap that was made by hand using lion animal fat and other natural products. This is, I think they use some balsam. You can smell it faintly, but it takes a couple of weeks for the aroma to come out. And some fudges. They made candles by dipping them into hot wax. We've seen candle makers. They did an awful lot of home canning. Mrs. Bronson said she's into the art of home canning. These are all kinds of things that she's made this year. Kitchen tools, very simple. That looks like an apple corer to me. I believe it's an old-fashioned apple corer because we had one at home. This is a very small hand-operated butter churn. The big ones, some of our viewers will recall, involve a large container with an up and down motion. We talked about washing their clothes with a washboard and a big tub, sewing on a sewing machine with a foot pedal. This one actually works. That's beautiful. Ancient sewing machine with a leather cable to keep it going, and a very nice display where youngsters got to talk to their grandparents and make a connection to see how things were in the past. We're sorry that Mrs. Bronson wasn't here to explain her project, but we'd like to thank all the grandparents for their help in talking to the youngsters and letting them know the way things were in the olden days. We talked to Bev at Champlain Telephone Company, and the next door neighbor connected in many ways is Primelink. Roger Rodriguez is here. How are you, Rod?
Great to be here.
Just terrific to be here too. What is Primelink?
Primelink helps people to communicate. The different ways that people communicate are on the internet, with cell phones, with pagers, and with web pages, and that's where I come in. I actually do all of the web design for Primelink.
You told me earlier in an interview, which will never get on the air because of our faulty tape, that you grew up in Hawaii?
That's right. My father was in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Hawaii for about 18 years, which is unique. But he loved Hawaii so much that he kind of pulled some strings, and I actually managed to go through high school and elementary school in Hawaii.
Isn't that neat? Was he stationed here on Plattsburgh Air Force Base?
Yes, he was. Yes.
That's how you came to town.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And how did you make the connection with Primelink?
I had actually been doing web design as a hobby for a while I was going through school. My major is actually a computer science major. A lot of people who work on the internet are computer scientists. So I met some people who were working at Primelink. They saw some of my work and they said, well, why don't you come over and do some web design for us? And that's how it started. So I've been with Primelink for about a year now, and it's been growing a lot.
You know, there are people out there viewing this program who still don't have computers, although it's hard to believe.
Right.
A lot of people are getting connected, more people every year. But explain to them what a website is all about.
A website is almost like an interactive brochure where you can go and you can get in-depth information about products that you're interested in, about places that you've never been to. You can also order goods and services. There's all sorts of things that you can do online. But most people use the internet for email, to communicate with people who are a long way from home without having to pay for long distance charges.
You know, I've seen so many seniors, grandparents whose kids and their grandchildren are gone, live in another area,
Right.
who get a new computer, and that's all they learn.
Yes.
Is how to do the email. But it is kind of neat, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And really, if that works for them, that's all they need to be able to know, really.
So what's Primelink's connection with Champlain Telephone Company?
Primelink is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of Champlain Telephone. A few years ago, when they deregulated the telephone service, Primelink was created in order to offer long distance and a whole lot of other services like internet to the area. So Primelink is actually a part of CTC, which has been around for 9,500 years.
Part of what we're doing here today is to compare the way things were and the way things are.
Right.
And you're not a very old guy, Raj, but when you were a little boy, this kind of service wasn't available.
Oh no. I did have a computer class in high school, and I hated them at the time. I hated them. They were slow.
That's
You
amazing.
couldn't do anything with them. The screens were only two color. So I never realized that I'd be doing what I am doing today.
You just developed little by little, developed not only an interest, but obviously a passion.
Yes, exactly.
So you enjoy it. Do you still play on the computer at home at night when you get home?
You know what? I don't. I don't even have a computer at home. I'm on the internet 40 hours a week at work, and that's really all I need to do. When I get home, I want to do other things. I want to read, I want to go out. So,
Well, you can't deny. They used to say when television was invented, it was the window to the world, but now it's the internet, isn't it?
it is. Most of the news that I get is from the internet. I don't hardly watch television. When I find out about late breaking news, it's always over the internet.
So the traditional ways in reading, as we say, hard copy newspapers, and viewing television news, listening to radio news, now people get on the internet. They can listen to radio stations all over the world.
Exactly. Yes, they
They
can.
can read newspapers.
That's right. And they have the freedom to gather that information when they want. They don't have to wait for 6 o'clock news. They don't have to wait for the 11 o'clock news. They can get the news the way they want it, when they want it.
You know, it's great to point out to young people who may be viewing this, and to people who are a little bit older, how it was when we were younger. Communication was entirely different. In some ways, what we know as modern communication was in its infancy. And when things happened across the other side of the world, we didn't have CNN back in those days. And it took a while to get the information back. It even took a while to set up remote radio transmitters back in those days.
Right.
Nowadays, you know, ever since the Vietnam War, the television stations have been there on the scene, broadcasting the battles live.
Right.
The word communication is, especially with digital broadcasting, is taking on a whole new meaning, isn't it?
Exactly, it has. It's changed the way the world communicates. It really has.
What would we do without satellites, right?
I don't know.
Roger, thanks so much for having us here today.
Okay, thank
Have
you
a
very
great
much.
day and a great life.
Okay.
Okay. Best laid plans of mice and men. Gosh, folks, we did such a great interview with Mary Ellen a while ago. But we're back to do it all over again. Mary Ellen, how are you today?
Very good. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Where's your husband?
Oh, he's cutting wood today. We have a sawmill, and it just happens that he couldn't make it. He was supposed to be here making soap. We made a batch of soap last night, and we got all the things prepared, but then the last minute he's got to go on the road. So
We looked at your soap. What kind of soap is that?
the brown soap, which looked like fudge, is balsam soap.
Glad I didn't take a bite of that.
my son had gotten the balsam needles out, and we cut them up, and you boil that down, and you use that liquid as not a flavor, but aroma for in a soap. We have had pigs in the past, when we use the fat or the tallow, you melt that down, you render that down, and you heat that to a temperature of 120 to 130 degrees, and you mix your lye separately with rainwater, and then you mix the two together, and it's a chemical reaction called saponification. And once that's mixed in and into a creamy liquid, then you add your balsam water, and that creates an aroma. Then you set it up, and I use the plastic cookie trays, and you let it.
It look like fudge.
It looks like fudge. I've made several different types of soap. My husband, who is goes on the ships, he likes to use the homemade soap because it has a stronger lye in it, and because he works in the diesel gets into his pores, and it comes out a lot easier with homemade soap. I peeled apples, and it took off the apple peeling colors.
Oh, isn't that amazing? Okay, now Mary Ellen Tomo, you've been spinning for a while, and we want to take a little look at the displays you have here and what you're talking to the kids about. Okay. Explain to me how you got into the spinning business.
I started out as just a hobbyist, and that's why I still do. I went to a fair in Pennsylvania, and this woman had her spinning wheel, and she was showing us how to spin. And I got my curiosity up, so I went and I bought a kit. This is an Ashford spinning wheel. We put it together, put it together, and the next thing was, how do I use it? So we went to the Spinning Weavers Guild, and they showed us how to spin. It takes a lot of time and practice, and you end up with a finished product, and it's amazing what you can do with it.
Well, we know you've done it because you carded it, you spun it, and you made a couple of beautiful sweaters. Have you made other things?
Basically sweaters. I've tried mittens, which are it takes a while for mittens. What we have done, what I found was in the National Geographic, a picture of a sheep that has been spun. Is that okay? Okay. You notice how the sheep has got the wool, and it's sheared. Shearing doesn't hurt the animal. In fact, if it's a summer like we had this past year, it feels pretty good to get that heavy coat up. And once a farmer is good enough, shearing, you can take the whole fleece off in one cutting. It's a little bit easier. After it's sheared, they pick out the bad parts, little pieces, dirty parts, and then from there we card the wool. And carding is getting the fibers into all one direction. Would you like me to show you? Yeah,
you got kids here. Why don't you just start with your kids, and we'll watch you for a couple of minutes. We talked with Mary Ellen a while ago, and kids are all here, and they got their little masks with their names on there. And in our last interview, the interview that wasn't, Mary Ellen showed us exactly how they card the wool with the two devices called carders down there, which almost look like combs, hair combs, where they take the wool, and the object is to get all the fibers going in the right direction. So, and to get some of the impurities out, such as things from the hay field that fall to the ground, and she cards it, and then she begins to spin it on the spinning wheel. That's a nice little spinning wheel, maybe a little bit different from some other spinning wheels you've seen in the past. It goes in two different directions, and everything has to be lined up perfectly to work. We're getting smoke in the background from one of our other displays, and we'll hope to do that interview in just a few minutes. We couldn't finish at this career day without talking with my friend Trooper Diana Cogan. How are you?
Hi, Gordy. I'm doing well. Yes.
I'm doing well, too. What are you doing here today?
Well, I'm sharing a little bit about how police officers are helpers in the community, and that police officers care about people and keeping people safe, keeping people's property safe. Yes.
Are the kids enjoying it?
Oh,
I notice you interacting with them. You love them.
Well, we look at some safety things like, do they wear their seatbelts? Do they wear their helmets? when they bicycle or when they rollerblade, because helmets protect heads, but heads protect brains, and that's the real key.
You are amazing, and your audience is waiting here.
Oh, well, we'll sign off for now, but thank you for stopping by, Gordy.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Dana Cogan's life with the New York State Police is one of interaction with youngsters, and not only just little kids, but teenagers as well. She's had a tremendous influence on a lot of the North Country population, trying to inspire teenagers to do good, trying to right some of the wrongs that have happened in their family environments and their life here in the North Country that was more negative than positive, and she turns that around. She's been an excellent influence in an explorers group that involves a lot of young people learning about the criminal justice system. I've watched her at work with people all over the place, and believe me, the New York State Police is proud to have Diana Cogan as one of their emissaries for good here in the North Country. She's been a friend for a long, long time, and she's just a terrific person. We'll move around the room and talk to some more people at the 7th Annual Career Day. The pottery lady is here. Who are you?
Jackie Hoy.
Jackie, what are you doing here today?
Just showing the kids what this kind of career is all about, being a potter and making pots to sell and going to art fairs. And we talked about how I have a booth in the Market Barn, little plug. But right now what I'm doing is I'm centering the clay, and this is a very important part of it. It's unfortunately not the most interesting part. But once it's centered, then I can actually throw a pot. And that's the term when you work on a wheel. It's not called making a pot, but throwing a pot.
I don't know how you get all those things to look alike.
Well, that's years of doing the same thing. I'm actually a production potter. I make mugs. Those are the bases for oil lamps. Of course, there's a pitcher. These small things are spoon rests. And I think this will probably be another small pitcher. You have to open up the clay. And once it's open, compress the bottom. And then you start lifting the wall. The trick is to do this without having the pot collapse as you're doing it. And unfortunately, even though I've been doing this for almost 30 years, it still happens.
It's amazing. The pot becomes an extension of you, doesn't it?
I think so.
It certainly does. You develop a very special feel in those fingers, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I can actually probably do this just by feel if it's a small piece at this point in my life. There are some things, like at this point, it's getting kind of weak, and so I have to do this. The belly, I really have to think about, because what's going to happen here is I'm going to reverse the shape of the pot. We're going to go from this belly to the actual neck for the little pitcher that we're making. And I do enjoy going into the schools. I sometimes go in and work with kids. I have people come to my studio and I teach lessons. I think the kids are the most fun because they have the patience to do this. I think as adults we get so busy. It's a skill like anything else. It's so difficult to find the time to practice.
Have you inspired youngsters to get into it themselves, Jack?
I think so. I taught at Franklin Academy for a while, part-time, and taught ceramics one semester. We had a lot of fun. We didn't have a potter's wheel, but there are a lot of techniques you can do without the wheel. And some kids just pick it up so quickly and don't mind the feel of the clay. That's part of the... Some kids just really don't like to get their hands this dirty, but most do. And once the belly's set, then you're all set to put the spout on and
Your kids are waiting. You can, oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
That's basically the way you make a picture.
I love
It's
it.
a little more work, but
What happens after that? Do you have to,
yeah, it has to be have a handle applied, decorated, and fired twice. And then the last firing, the clear glaze goes over it, and that makes it workable and usable, you know, for dishware or whatever.
do you do the painting too, or glazing?
I do
or?
every step, from the lump of the clay all the way through to the final piece.
I'll let you get back to your kids. Jackie, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
That's Jackie Hoy with us today. And we've learned something. As we've learned, every time we talk to somebody, we learn something new. It is amazing to me how two of those objects could be not exactly alike, but very, very close to alike. And look at the beautiful picture she made just as we were watching. We're talking to you and showing you things connected with the 7th Annual Career Day at Northern Adirondack Central Elementary School in Ellenburg, New York. The FFA is here.
Yeah,
How are you, ladies?
I'm pretty good.
Who are you?
My name is Rachel Munn.
And?
I'm Heather Gorman.
And we came to interview them earlier, but there were pictures taken today, and it gave you a late start.
Right, we had to get our 5th grade members over to the other building for FFA pictures for our calendar for the yearbook.
You guys were here last year, weren't you?
Uh-huh.
I was here with Julia Slosky, Tessa Parent, and Casey Frenier.
How are they doing these days?
They're good. Julia and Tessa are both in college. Julia is actually our state FFA vice president.
Come on.
Yes, she is. She's
Whoa.
really important.
Very
You
proud
guys
of her.
stuffed the ballot box there. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Tessa is going to college in Plattsburgh, and I think Casey's still in the high school, and he's a senior this year.
So tell us what you're doing here today.
Basically, we're trying to tell the children that there's agriculture everywhere, and that agriculture is not just farming, and that you can find it throughout a whole bunch of jobs. So we want to spread it out, and we want to break the stereotype that agriculture is farming and cows and plows, and that it involves a whole bunch of other things.
Well, we can tell that just by looking at the displays on the wall, which are now all up, aren't they, huh?
Yeah, it took us a little while, but we finally got them up.
Veterinarian, zoologist, florist, forester, landscape artist, biologist, ag teacher, meteorologist, and there are even more.
Yeah, there's so many more. We only limit ourselves to 10, but we only got 8 done because I don't even remember why. Oh, we messed up the posters, that's why. But
We messed up our tape earlier today, so you're entitled to one screw up today, I'll tell you that.
that's okay.
But it's great. You know, FFA has been around for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, that isn't a brand new banner right over there,
No,
is it?
our brand new banner is actually up in our ag room. It's kind of stapled to the wall, and so we had to take the older one, which is okay, because
This one has been around. This one has been to a few fairs and a few barns. I can see a little straw on the top of it there.
Yeah, just a few.
Gotta get a lint brush for that one.
But you know, the point is FFA has been around for a long, long time. As a youngster in high school, I knew a lot of people involved in it. I don't know where and how it began. Do you guys know anything about the history?
Well, our charter for our school started in 1972, but the FFA has been around for so much longer.
The 1930s, I believe, yes, was the first FFA organization. It was only allowed for boys, and I think it was Virginia. And there was this group of boys that kind of got together, and they started a club because agriculture was really important to them. And it just developed, and they got so many members, and they decided to have a national convention. And at that national convention, they recruited new members. And at the 3rd convention, they made a creed, and they made all sorts of laws and bylaws and all this other stuff. And it just kind of developed from there.
You get special points for that, you know. That's, whoa, that's kind of
Credit.
extra credit, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to be a state officer one day, like Julia. So I'm running actually this year, so you need to know your FFA trivia.
Well, for those people who may be watching this who'd like to get involved, tell us a little bit about how the organization works and how you get connected with it.
Well, the FFA is basically a school organization. Our school has it in grades 5 through senior year. And basically what we do is we promote agriculture. and we work through CDEs. And our CDEs are career development events, and they're contests that we work in, such as parliamentary procedure or agricultural issues. And then there are public speakers, there's prepared public speaking, and there's an extemporaneous speech.
That means make it up as you go along.
Well, you get 30 minutes prep time.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
So you have about 45 minutes to look over your own materials, and they give you a topic, and so you write up an essay or a speech that's at least 5 to 7 minutes long, and you have to give that speech on ad lib mostly. You have cue cards in your hand that you have notes on, and you go from there. Julia, she's probably the best extemporaneous speaker I know. She has been to States for I think like
past 2-3 years.
And I don't remember what she placed. Second.
She placed second this year and third last year. And so basically Julia has worked her way up the success ladder in FFA.
You guys are well on the way. You seem to speak easily, and it doesn't seem to bother you too much.
Well, we've been doing this for a long time. I started my first CDE in 7th grade, and I had to speak in front of people.
Right.
I did people in agriculture, where I had to basically discuss careers in agriculture in 6 different fields. And so when you're in 7th grade and you're standing in front of people you don't know, you
remember the first one?
The
first time you did it, how to speak to people?
I walked in, I saw one person I knew, I'm like, hi!
Yeah, you wouldn't know it, but when we were in 7th grade, we were really shy. Really shy.
No, I wouldn't know it.
Well, Mr. Bushy, he starts our members out really young. Like in 6th grade, at one of the first meetings, they have a creed speaking contest, and whoever knows the most of the creed wins. And well, when I was in 5th grade, 5th and 6th grade chapter, no one would volunteer to go up for the contest. So he looked around the room, and he knew me from before. So he picked me up, threw me up in front of the people, and he said, "Say it, do what you know." And I was like standing up there, my knees are shaking, and I was turning a bright red. I was so nervous, and all these people were just like, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous."
You stand there and you grab your sleeves and you look at them. You're like, your knees are shaking. You're like, oh my.
But then you kind of work on it. It's not, I don't know, it got really easy after a while, because you have to do it so often that it just becomes second nature.
You know, it's amazing. We've mentioned it before, I think, on this program. They've done surveys and asked people what they fear most. Number 1 is public speaking, and number 2 is dying.
Yeah.
So you know that a lot of people are really afraid of it until the only way to get over the fear is to do it.
Actually do it. I mean, you have to get up and you have to do it in front of people. And the more you do it, the better you are. So practice makes perfect.
That's what's so great about the FA is you just do it over and over and over again, especially with Mr. Bushy, because when you take the ag classes, he makes you write at least 3 essays a year, and you have to give them in front of the class, and the class evaluates you. He gives you a grade, but you have to answer questions, like all the questions that they have about your speech. As long as your speech is agriculturally related, then that's fine. He doesn't really care what it's about. You have to find an article in, I always found mine in Country Folks magazine, and you kind of read the article and you get a good idea about what it's about, and you write a 3 to 5 minute speech on it, and you give it in front of the class, and after you're finished, everyone asks you questions, and the more questions you get and the more answers you know is
basically the higher your grade is going to be. And to do these speeches is you have to do these speeches in order to get your green hand degree. Or no, it's your chapter degree. We did this last year. We did our 3 speeches, and I remember going on the internet and looking in the paper and getting all this information. And it took a lot of prep time to write this one speech and then to answer the questions. And when I don't know everything about agriculture, get up there and you answer them, and everyone's like, wow, I didn't know she knew that. And
sometimes you don't even know you know that.
Well, for us non-farm girls, it's a little harder, but a lot of my friends in the FFA I found that aren't actually from farms. So it works out, I mean, really well. Especially, it's really good builder for people that aren't involved in agriculture in everyday life.
And you know, the best part of it all that you've learned, and obviously you're both charming young ladies, this will help you in whatever you do in the future, whether you stay connected with this or not.
Oh, yeah.
My father once told me, I was in parliamentary procedure, and I was the parliamentarian for our group, that he said that if I ever got involved with town politics or state politics, that I could use my parliamentary procedure skills that I learned, because he was a town councilman once, and he said that when he goes through meetings, how they run them is basically out of order, and everything is basically just unorganized. And he said he'd really like to see the Roberts Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure come back into meetings.
We're pretty well versed in it. We made it to nationals last year, or no, 2 years.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, we made it to the national convention. This past, not this November, but past November, we went to the national. Yep, we went to the national convention in Kansas City, Missouri, and competed in parliamentary procedure.
That must have been fun.
Oh, it was a big old party. We tried to calm ourselves down. So basically, everybody from different states, we're all in this one room, and we're like studying, and then we're like, finally, we just stood there. Who cares? And we got up and we bunny hopped around the room.
We made it this far, we might as well have fun. So we spent 3 hours in this room with all these other states, just doing crazy stuff,
partying.
It was a lot of fun, but it was really nerve-wracking. We placed, I think, 30th in the country, so that was really exciting.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, we get these really cool medals.
Oh yeah, very nice.
They're really awesome, and it says Parley Pro on the back. So I can show this to my grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
Say
you get to
your
be,
grandma was once a famous girl.
Yeah, you get to be old like us, and after you've done it so long, you get kind of little names for contests instead of saying extemporaneous speaking all the time. Extemp.
Communication is the name of the game. That's what we're doing here via Hometown Cable on our little corner, communicating something that's happening in this room to a lot of other people on a larger scale. Once you learn communication skills, you can make your way in the world a lot better, can't you?
Exactly, and that's why I'm going into college for communications.
What year are you in school?
I'm a junior. And so basically I'm looking for colleges now, and I'm going as far as I can with communications. Hopefully continue on with my French and maybe work for the government. Be an ambassador.
She's got a plan.
I have a plan.
When I was her age, I was just trying to make my way to lunch.
Well, we work on goal setting and careers.
Well, that's a goal. Yeah. I didn't get this fat by skipping lunch, I'll tell you that. Well, that's wonderful. What schools do you look at that you like so far?
We went to college night yesterday, Wednesday, and there was a college in Long Island that I saw. It was Dowling.
Yep.
And that looked very, very interesting. It looked like it had a lot of really nice program. And then I went to State Fair, and someone told me about a college near Washington, D.C. called Georgetown that has an excellent program that can get me right on the right track.
It's not just any college. It's one of the most prestigious schools in America.
Somebody told me about it.
Somebody told me about Georgetown.
And it's an amazing place.
And
you would love it there.
I can't wait for college. And then yesterday, 2 nights ago at college night, there was a school in Canada that would increase my French language skills, and then continue to work with my communications. And it's an English and French program. So basically, I'd speak in French, but all my information would be in English, so I'd comprehend everything.
That's interesting. And you?
Well, I went to college night also, and I am planning to study secondary education in English.
Good for you. Good for both of you, but that's great.
Yeah, it's something, I don't know, I've wanted to do it for a long time, and all the teachers are like, well, you come up with a career now, but in a year and a half it's going to change, and this is just something I want to do for a long time. I think English is my best subject, and I don't know why, but there's just something about it that I love, the poetry part, and it's just everything. So I decided that secondary education would probably be a really great thing. And Dowling, I stopped there on a whim. I was talking to my friend, and this lady, she had a really good presentation, and she said, what are you looking to major in? And I said, well, secondary education. She's like, well, wow, that's our whole thing. And look at the draw. And so it sounds like a really good college. But I might also go to SUNY Morrisville, like Julia did, and study agriculture communications for 2 years or so.
There's a lot to do, and guess what? There's a lot of time to
Yes.
make up your minds.
Yep, that's what I said.
I'm pretty happy with what I'm going. I'm on the right track, and if I change my mind, then that's fine. I've got time to change my mind. I've got a whole year and then almost 2 years to make a decision. And one man at college night asked me what I plan to do with college, and I explained to him what I wanted to do. And then my friend Casey said she didn't know. And he said, well, basically, 75% of the students that do start going to college don't know. So
Doesn't matter. Just do it.
Right.
just go.
Just do it.
Well, you ladies are an inspiration to me, and I hope to lots of other young people who are watching today. Good luck with
Thank you.
anything you do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being such good spokespersons for the FFA.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The first person we interviewed when we walked into this wonderful gym at Northern Adirondack Central Elementary School in Ellenburg this morning was Christine. What's your last name again?
Brodvig.
I'm sorry, keep forgetting. But our interview didn't turn out very well because our tape didn't work. But we're back again, and you know what? Now that we've had a time to walk around the room, you've really done it right this time.
Oh, thank you.
You've done it right
Not myself.
every year for years. Have you been involved in all 7 of them?
Yes. Yes, from the start.
You're a counselor, right?
Yes, I am.
And you've been here for...
For 10 years.
Wow. You told me earlier that you started way back in, was it June?
We started in June of our last school year to start preparing for the career fair. Every year we've backed it up a little bit more so we could give ourselves more time to prepare and get presenters.
How big a committee do you have that works on that?
There's 12 of us, 12 people.
No fighting, right?
No, we get along great. That's why it works so well.
But how did you arrive at this theme?
Well, when we met in June, we tried to think of something creative. We were hoping to try to do something creative, and we were, first of all, brainstorming ideas of what areas we wanted to cover, because we haven't really covered the arts yet. So we kept thinking about the arts, and then suddenly someone said, how about Raiders of the Lost Arts? And that we're trying to think of catchy things that people can relate to. And basically like that we are career explorers, and we're looking at the lost arts and how they, there's the transition over time of the arts, which were once jobs, and many people are still keeping those as jobs, and how technology relates to those types of things.
And it works. Everybody's really enjoying themselves here today.
We're having a great time.
The kids are doing it. You have a lovely dress, by the way. You're representing a dancer.
Yes, I am.
But you refuse to put on a show for us.
Well, I'm not really a dancer, that's why.
So how this career day has gone on for 7 years. What happens in the course of the day? You have a number of presenters all around the room. The kids come in, and then what? Does it go on all day or just for the morning? Or
The
how does it
entire
work?
day. It lasts from the large gym. We have presentations going on from 9 o'clock until 1. They sign up for a time to come in, and they can go from station to station. And then we also have presentations that are geared for their grade level. We have a disc jockey and a drummer that we have for our 3rd through 5th graders, and then we have a career discovery zone on our stage for our kindergarten through 2nd graders, and they can, and that's being run right now by some of our 4th and 5th graders, with the help of some aides.
We're going to sneak up there because before the curtains were drawn, we saw a puppet show. And
They have some really very wonderful things planned, and they divide the children up into groups, and they do activities with them.
do the parents respond well to this career day when the kids talk to them about it? Do you get any feedback?
Yes, in fact, we've had parents that have volunteered to come in and help us. I have a couple of parents who came in today and just said, "Can I help?" I said, "Sure, that's great."
Oh, isn't that neat?
We welcome parents to participate. We have had, in fact, we have many presenters today that are parents of children in our district. So we try to promote getting parents involved as much as possible.
I would hope to show this program all over New York State as an example of how things should be done. It must please you after working so hard on this project to say, hey, we did it again.
It does. It's a great feeling, and you did say we. That's a really important point because it's not a one-person job. It's a 12-person job, and you really need a wonderful committee that works together well and listens to ideas, is flexible, and is willing to work hard and put in the extra time, because it is a lot of extra time outside of work.
But it's worth it, and it shows. We've interviewed a lot of the kids and the people, and everybody's having a good time. So Christine, thanks very much for doing it and for inviting us back again.
Well, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks very much.
All right. You know, I'm always attracted to good food. Michael Michler's back again this year to talk about the culinary arts. How long have you been at CV Tech?
This is my third year, Gordy, at CV Tech. So
Wow.
3 years, 3 wonderful years.
We're following some of your students around the country. A good friend of ours, Corey, who's down in
He's
Providence.
Providence, Rhode Island, Johnson and Wales College. Corey was a graduate last year from CV Tech.
A couple emails from him. He's having a ball.
He is just enjoying it. He stopped by to visit me a couple of weeks ago. When the hurricane was going through, Providence got flooded, and he came home for a couple of days and is just loving it.
Isn't it great? Where this whole idea here is to inspire kids, and isn't it great to connect with the young ones?
Well, I'll tell you, Gordy, nowadays, if we can start these kids thinking in these younger grades, we're dealing with kindergarten through 5th grade today. If we can start getting these guys to think about a career path now, it's going to make their life so much easier when the real decision time comes about. Right now, we like to introduce these children to all the careers now at this age, and it gives them plenty of time to make a decision.
Boy, I love what you've done here. Describe a few of the things on this table,
Well,
Michael.
today I brought Ernie Kinsey again with me. Ernie is a senior this year at CV Tech.
Hey, Ernie, how are you?
Pretty good.
Great to have you here today.
Ernie was with us last year, and I said, come on, Ernie, one more time for old time's sake. This year we're doing, of course, our apple birds, and we're working on some other flowers that we're making out of leeks and turnips today, just to show these kids that art is not only on a palette with paint. Their theme is Raiders of the Lost Art, so we're kind of showing them our kind of art, vegetable carvings and fruit carvings and that type of thing.
And this isn't an art that's just been discovered over the last couple of weeks. This has been going on for generations.
This has been going on for a good long time. The Culinary Arts, of course, it gets its name because it is an art. The vegetable carvings and things go back for as long as these vegetables have been grown, I'm sure. We just don't see a lot of it anymore like you used to. A lot of restaurants don't have a lot of time to be producing this type of thing. But we're sending our kids out having this knowledge so that they can do these vegetable displays and have some fun with their careers.
Michael, I want to know how it started for you. How did you learn this?
Well, I've mentioned this before. My mother was a home ec teacher, and I kind of picked up the interest from her. And just loved it all my life. I went to the Culinary Institute of America, graduated from there back in 1980, which seems like forever now.
Almost 20 years ago.
Almost 20 years, and I've been doing it ever since. Spent a lot of time in the resorts, settled back up here in the North Country, and just loving working with these students at CV Tech.
You like teaching, don't you?
I do love teaching. It's the culinary arts it's a field that there is so much opportunity in it. They're predicting thousands and thousands and thousands of job availability in the next year, and I'm just trying to make sure we have enough kids to fill those slots, and loving doing it.
And you seem to create an interest up there every year. You have a lot of kids.
Well, I'll tell you, our program this year, I think we've grown another 25% over last year, almost to the point of where I'm going to have to build a bigger kitchen maybe. We're just having a lot of fun. The program is flying. People are always going to eat. Restaurants are always going to be there. And I think that it's a great career to go in. It's always made me happy. And I'm sure some of these guys that are coming out are just going to have a very fulfilling life doing it.
What do the kids ask you any hard questions?
Oh, they're always asking hard questions. I just hope to have all the answers for them.
Michael, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for your inspiration for people.
Well, I hope to see you up at school sometime. We'd love to have you come up.
I'll be there.
Okay.
The Scouts are here. The Scouts are here. How are you? You're Michael.
Good.
Michael Carter.
Yep. How
What's
are you,
going
Gordon?
on here today, Mike?
Oh, we're just letting everybody know about scouting and trying to drum up some interest. Hopefully we'll get some new scouts here today even.
You know, the most amazing thing, Calvin and I were over in the back. Calvin was putting a new battery in the machine, checking the tape that didn't work, and I heard my voice and I freaked out.
Right. I've got some tapes here today for all the different grades, and the one I have for the older boys is on Camp Bedford. which is the Scout camp, which is for the Boy Scouts, and the Cub Scouts also. And yep, you're on there. I mentioned it to a couple of the boys.
I have no idea when I did that. Do you know how old that tape might be?
I don't know myself.
I don't know. I must have been brain dead that year because it was started to dawn on me. Yes, I remember faintly recording that narration a while back.
Well, you must have had a good scriptwriter then, because you sound good. You sound good.
Well, thank you very much. Camp Bedford has been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm not sure exactly how long. I'm sort of new to the area myself.
Where'd you come from?
Originally from down near Watertown. So I was Camp Portaferry down there. I was big on that one down there.
You were born and brought up in Watertown?
Yep, nearby.
Where?
Actually, I lived in Dexter.
I know where Dexter is. You can mention the name of Dexter, sure.
Yep, Dexter and Limerick, right in that area.
Oh, yeah. That's I love that area up there.
Thousand Islands.
Love the Thousand Islands, Alex Bay. Calvin's got a picture of me in Alex Bay a long, long time ago. I love the Thousand Islands region.
It's quite a busy place in the summer.
Yep.
It's starting to wind down. In the wintertime, it's quite quiet.
So how'd you get involved in scouting, Mike?
Same way a lot of adults do. My son wanted to sign up for scouting when he was in second grade, and I showed up. They needed a leader, so there I just happened to be there. And you know how the kids have those eyes; they look at you, and so I signed up and liked what I got into, and I've been there 10 years now. And that son happens to be a senior this year, and now I'm in it with my other son who's in second grade. So I'm going to be in it a while. The whole family's involved. My daughter helps out with Pack 29, and she's a big help.
It's amazing. You know, many of us have fond memories of scouting days, and I do. There was, I think, my scout troop in Messina was connected with the Methodist Church there. Sometimes the churches are connected with scout troops. And we did a lot of neat things, including, I think we went to camp up by somewhere near Ogdensburg. I've never been able to find the camp, and I'm sure it doesn't even exist anymore.
I don't believe so. That was a little before my time.
Yeah, but it was an awful lot of fun. And I remember I was maybe 50 years old, and I got a package in the mail and opened it up, and my mother had found all my old merit badges.
Mm-hmm. Well, going through some of the things that the pack has acquired, I found some things in there with some names on it of people that are like my age, maybe a little younger, that they've been kicking around. And scouting's been around a long time, so you talk to enough people, you're going to find that they, at one time or another, had some ties to scouting.
Everybody's goal is to become an Eagle Scout, and not very many people make it. I made it to Life Scout, and then I moved out of the area and so on, but it was a lot of fun.
Boys that make it to Eagle Scout really have a step ahead of a lot of kids when they get out into the job market, because prospective employers see that on a resume and find out that they actually did what was necessary to become an Eagle Scout, and they realize that there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of leadership skills there, and it really is a big help.
We saw a commercial on television one time of the people who are prominent across our nation who were Eagle Scouts or are Eagle Scouts, and it's amazing. And they did I don't know if that's still around, that commercial, but they're promoting scouting and saying what it meant to them in their lives as young people.
Well, there's no telling how far you're going to go. The first man to walk on the moon was an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, there you go.
He was in scouting.
Now, who's this charming young person you have with you?
Well, this is my daughter, Christina. She helps out. She's, it's not just for the guys. Christina helps out a lot with the pack, and she's really, really good. She's worked at day camp with us and does a good job.
Are we having fun yet?
Yeah, I guess.
There are a lot of great kids here today, huh?
Yeah.
Have you talked to any of them yourself, or are you just standing there and smiling while your father does all the work?
Oh, I've talked to some of them. I've seen some of them at the sign-ups, and they knew me from there.
How many do you have in your troop, Mike?
Oh, good question. We just had some sign-ups. I think we're about 30 boys right now.
Oh, really?
Yep. Mainly first, second, and third graders. A little bit light on the fifth and sixth graders, but I think there's about between 30 and 35.
Where do you meet?
Which is good because it's sort of on a rebuilding stage right now. We lost a lot of leaders, and we're getting some new leaders. They're going to be trained, and we've got a couple experienced people. Myself and my wife, Christina, is helping out, and we got some really good ideas, which is one thing you get with new people. You get some new ideas and new ways of doing things, and the kids are all excited. The leaders are excited. We're sponsored by the Kiwanis Club here in town, and we have our meetings at the Methodist Church, which is just outside, just next door to the school, on Tuesday nights. And the boys have a great time. They have a great program to look forward to this year. And one thing that I try to mention to every one of the groups as they go through the career fair here today is that unlike some of these other careers, Scouting is a volunteer organization, so a lot of the people that are here may have some ties to Scouting and may even help out at some of the meetings once in a while when we're working on cooking or pottery. You know, the police, the state police are good at coming in and volunteering to help out, so we've got ties everywhere.
It's amazing. Like every organization, Scouting goes through phases, and it has dips in the number of people who volunteer to work as leaders, and then it grows again. And I remember all the popcorn drives. Years ago, when my grandson was in the Boy Scouts, I bought so much popcorn. Some of it may still be in my cupboard.
The popcorn fundraiser is an excellent a way to help Scouting. A lot of the proceeds go directly into Scouting in the area, and it's a really good fundraiser. It's going on now. Get a little plug in for the popcorn, but it's going on now. So look for a Scout or call the Scout office in Plattsburgh. I'm sure they'll find a way to get some popcorn to you.
That's great. Well, thanks both of you for being here today. Christina, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Good luck. See you later, Michael.
Glad to talk to you. I'm glad we could get our message out. The school's been really good to have us here, and you know, the more people we get involved, the more people that see Scouting, more people are going to get involved.
That's great.
I love it.
Am I losing my mind, or are we getting more children in here every minute? This place is really filling up. We came in here this morning about 8:30, 8:45. There were just a few. They were setting up, and now I think they're just about all here. Steve Kuchar, how are you?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm doing great. What do you got here today?
Well, we've got a laptop and a PC projector. What we're trying to do is show the students here at NAC exactly what's involved in AutoCAD drafting, computer-aided drafting. So this allows us to bring some of the equipment and some of the programs, the software, up here to NAC so they can get a bird's eye view of what goes on down at CV Tech.
I was talking with somebody before about the beginnings of drafting and designing and how blueprints were originally made. And boy, have we come a long way since that day.
We come a very long ways. Today, you very seldom see any more blueprints, the old-fashioned blueprints. You still see some of the blueprints that are blue, but they're white actually with blue lettering. It used to be they're all blue with white lettering. It's kind of reversed. Even you see less of that with the advent of the computers. We do more plotting on large format plotters, in which our plotter can put out a drawing of this size.
All right, let's take a look at that. What is that?
This is a drawing, a survey of CV Tech. My students at CV Tech went out and they used a transit and a theodolite, and they surveyed in the whole grounds, located building, parking lots, trees, everything that may be used in the planning of a project. And then we placed it on the computer. So now the school can use this for future planning or emergency plans or anything that involves planning of the school grounds.
Making that is a lot different than it was 50 or 75 years ago, right?
Oh, definitely. This was done on the computer. Matter of fact, the survey portion was probably not much different than they did 50 or 75 years ago. Our survey equipment is fairly old, but once if they can do it that way, they can do it the new way. But the computer simplified the plotting process. So with the plotter, or with the computer and the equipment we have, the drawing of it actually is a little bit quicker than probably it was a few years ago. And then revisions are quicker, and there's many advantages to using the computers.
I asked you before, and I'll ask you again, how did you get involved in your work there at CV Tech?
Well, I went to, out of high school, I went to college for engineering. And then I worked for a local architect and engineer for about 9 years. Then I decided I wanted to teach, and I was on my way back to college to become a math teacher, and an opening came available at CV Tech to teach drafting, which was doing what I love to do anyways. So it kind of worked out extremely well for me, and our enrollment in the curriculum has gone from 17 my first year to 38 this year.
Oh, really?
So we're
than double.
Constantly growing. Yep.
It's great. And as the other people have already conveyed to us in this career day, it's great to connect with kids, isn't it?
Oh,
Inspire them as young people.
it's a lot of fun. I find more enjoyment in helping today's youth, whether it be elementary or high school kids, than I ever did working in the private sector doing designing. So now I get to do both. We get to do a little designing, and we get to also help today's young people.
Any of your kids come back and say, "Hey, look what I did with that stuff you taught me, Mr. Steve"?
I've got a student working for Bob Sutherland. I've got another student over in Vermont working for Griffith International. I've got students in college right now, so they come back generally as often as they can. I think, because I see usually once every couple weeks I see a different student come in, and they all seem to enjoy what they're doing. So it makes me feel good.
That's the name of the game.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
I told you there were things going on elsewhere besides the main gym. We're right up on backstage behind the curtains. Lisa Venya, how are you?
Good, thank you.
What is happening up here?
Well, we talked about careers in the arts, and we decided that some people make a living doing puppet shows, some people make a living sculpting, and some people make a living dancing. So we have the young children up here being puppeteers and sculptors and dancers.
And some of them were really great with those puppets, too.
Yes, yep, the older kids are showing it to the younger kids, and then they're getting a chance to explore on their own. They're doing a really great job.
These are these younger kids this is a different category here on this stage, or is that everybody get a chance to come up here, or what?
The kindergarten through second grade gets a chance to come and do the activities up on the stage.
Now, you were on this committee for a long time, right?
Yes, this is my 7th year.
You did it right from the very beginning.
Right from the beginning.
Some good memories there.
Definitely.
I've only been here for 3. Calvin's been here for 5. I don't know how you come up with a different theme every year.
Well, we brainstorm and we sit around and things just kind of pop out of our mouth and we pick the one that sounds the best.
This Raiders of the Lost Arts was a really cool idea.
Yep, we try to get something from the different academic areas each year. So this year was the arts.
Well, this one, it's great to tie in history to show kids how things have changed.
Definitely, especially when we get the technology tie-in and they can see how the technology for designing a building was different 10, 20, 50 years ago than it is now, and how the artistry is also involved with that technology.
And how the telephone business has changed, and how people still spin wool, people still make pottery.
Right.
It's been a neat day. We've really enjoyed ourselves.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself.
Well, it's kind of a special place down here, this school.
It's a very nice place to work. It's like a huge family and the kids are really well cared for.
Bernie's been so busy with the kids playing his guitar, we haven't even had a chance to talk with him. We asked him in the beginning what he was going to do today, and he said, I don't know, I'm going to wear a lot of hats.
But he has a good time. He's really loving it.
Everybody does.
And I think the kids enjoy seeing him in a different role, too.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great. And I think the kids always enjoy this career day, don't they?
Yes, they do. They love it. It's great.
Occasionally a parent will stop in to help out and watch what's going on.
We get a lot of parental help and a lot of adults from outside helping. And of course, all the people who are presenting are volunteers giving their time for kids and for our communities.
Yeah, that's great. Lisa, you teach 4th grade. How long have you been here?
This is my 8th year in the district. It's my first year in 4th grade. Last year I was doing gifted in music, so it's completely different.
Oh, better? Or is the jury still out?
Like any change, there are things that you miss and there are things that you're just so glad to have now. It's a great change for me.
Do you have a background in music?
Background in music, yes.
Where'd you go to school?
At Potsdam.
Crane?
Crane, yep. Yeah, I have both degrees from Crane. So.
Oh, that's great. And you just chose to come back home and stay in the North Country.
Yeah, I taught a year downstate and came back up north.
Did you?
Yes.
And you'll never leave again?
Probably not. Take a lot to get me out of here, that's for sure.
Lisa, thanks so much for having us here today and for all your hard work.
Thanks for coming.
Glad to be here. The principal in this school is Bernie Bassett, who is a good friend and an amazing person and a tremendous educator. And if there's anybody in this building who cares about children, and they all do, but this is where it emanates from. Bernie Bassett is a tremendous individual, And he is wearing many hats today, but if you don't mind, I'm going to just stick the microphone next to him as he talks to these young people.
Classes of how to play guitar, but I took classes about music so I could learn more about it. Yes.
When you learn really well, can you just like step on it and then step on it so it's like gets automatic for that thing?
No, because that doesn't record the sounds. All that does is change the sounds that I'm making. So if I just stepped on them all at the same time and started playing, I wouldn't have music anymore. I just have noise.
No, like you would learn like where the keys are and like
Yes.
you just.
Yeah, I haven't really played with this stuff in a lot of years. So today when I began to set this up, I had to try and remember where all those dials go and all these dials go and all these dials go, so I didn't make noise. I made something that sounded like music. But you learn how to do that. Yes, Josh.
What's the difference between those two electric guitars?
That's a good question, Josh. There's not... The difference really is in the sound. Okay, that kind of guitar has special electronics that makes a little different sound than this one. This one's a little more mellow. That guitar is a little lighter than this one, so if I was standing up to play for a long time, that one would be more friendly to me because it was lighter than this. And the difference also is in this neck of the guitar. That one's a little thinner than this one, so it's more comfortable to play chords. This one's a little wider, so this one's easier for me to play notes on it. So it's like the difference between a Ford and a Chevy. They're both cars. They'll get you from home to work, but they drive different. Yes, hon?
When did you start playing guitar?
I started playing at about your age. One summer when I was about 12 years old or so, I decided I wanted to play, and I taught myself, and I began and never stopped. I don't play that much anymore, just for myself, but I keep thinking someday when I'm not a principal anymore, I might have more time to play music. Yes?
What was the name of your band?
The name of the last band I played in was, I think, Reminiscing. And we did a lot of oldies. Those are the name. Yes, hon?
Which one's older?
Which one's older? The Fender on the left is older. That guitar was made in the early 70s. I wish it were made about 5 years older than that, because if it were, it'd be worth about another $1,000. The one all the way over is oldest, yes. Yes, hon?
Do you know any songs?
I'm sorry?
Do you know any songs?
I used to know about 100 songs.
We want to hear about 95 of them.
Yes, the answer to your second question is maybe later today we're going to do something about that.
Which one is the easiest to play for you, or are they all about the same?
The easiest for me to play is actually the one up there. But I don't play this one that much and kind of thought I would just do this one. I don't know. It just ended up in my lap today. I used to perform a lot.
Boys and girls, Mr. Bassett played at my wedding. He was the music that I had at my wedding.
Imagine that. I used to play in bands a lot. The very last time I played in a band was about 10 years ago, which was really about the last time I played. And I had really quit a year or two before that. But I had a call from someone to play at the Officers Club on the Air Force Base, which was very special. And I told them that I didn't play anymore, but thank you. I had played for them before with my band. And they said, but we really would like you to play. And I said, well, I really don't anymore. I don't even know where all the other guys are that I used to play with. But then they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse, a very good offer. And it was always fun to play at the Officers Club. And now that the Air Force Base is closed, that was one of the last times I think anybody played there. So that was really special. So I called up all my old friends and said, hey guys, you know, I've got a deal for you that you can't refuse. And we all got together and did it one more time and just had a lot of fun. But maybe someday you never know, maybe someday I'll do it again. I don't know. I just always want to be able to do what I enjoy. And
oh, that's terrific. That's Bernie Bassett, who's the principal here. I love that. I love the name tag on one of the young men there. It says, Joshua Coons, professional soccer player. That's great. Boy, when you said many hats, Bernie, you weren't kidding. This is one of your best hats. All your hats are great, but this is one of the good ones.
Well, I don't know, Gordy. They put me in an interesting position when they asked if I would play a different role today. And of course, we can't ever tell the kids no. And the principal and me said it would be good for the children to see their principal in this position. And then the musician and me said, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Because I haven't touched this in a long time.
But what memories you have connected with your music?
Oh, the eyes were twinkling all the way to school.
That's another book, isn't it?
That is another book. Absolutely. I played for a very long time in bands and gave lessons all over the North Country and just have some phenomenal memories. Music is a wonderful thing.
Everybody's got little things hidden in back corners that they did in the past, but this is one of the good ones for you.
I think so. You know, and one of the things I want to leave youngsters with today, beside something about music and maybe a little bit about guitars and how all that works, is something real special, that we are multiple people. We can have, it's a good thing to have multiple personalities and take advantage of the many talents we have. We all have those talents, and we shouldn't want to be just a singular person. And Gordy Little fits those shoes
Expand
very well.
our horizons and
Always
be interested in things, always learn something. We've learned a great deal right here today.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
Bernie, thanks again for having us. We wouldn't miss it.
Okay, thanks for being here.
Have a great day. Bernie Bassett, and that's 7 years they've been doing it here. And a lot of these young people, unlike myself and Calvin, had no idea that he was connected with that. Theater performances, SUNY in Plattsburgh. This is another demonstration of the arts, Raiders of the Lost Arts. And look at the old devices, recording devices, spotlights. Thank goodness for, I was choking on the smoke machine. We had smoke going earlier, and that was kind of decent. And Calvin with his little asthma there, we had to move to the far corners of the room. And we got some great old uniforms and things reminiscent of the days when down in Letchworth Park, southwestern part of New York State, there was an old hotel that had long since been abandoned. And as college freshmen, we would go in there, and still old boxes of clothes and all kinds of costumes and uniforms out in the barn, and we would play act just like we did in Grandma's attic when we were little kids. That's a very interesting story and a lot of fun. We're going to put a new battery in, and we're going to wrap it up from NAC. We have to have a little music with what we're doing here, boy. We got a band in the background, in the foreground.
Time to rock and roll.
Jeff Matthews, how are you?
Good, very well, thank you.
This is great. What's going on in here?
Well, we've got a couple presentations to show the students of NAC basically a disc jockey service, and we have a band member with us to show the kids a band production. We've got Mr. Ferguson over there on the drums. And it's important today, keeping with their theme, the Raiders of the Lost Arts. We're showing them a couple different transitions in music, when it was recorded with the record to the CD to now it's the mini disc. And the kids are getting a big kick out of it. And we're doing some hands-on activities with them, and they're enjoying it.
Things have changed a lot since I first became a disc jockey. When I first became a disc jockey meant one thing: on the radio, spinning records, spinning discs. Now it's taken on a whole new meaning. And this is what you do for a living at various events.
Well, yeah, it's a part-time business that I have, the Dance Rhythms DJ service, and it's weekend gigs doing events such as weddings and anniversary parties and birthday parties. And as I stress to the kids, different aspects, mobile DJ service, meaning you're able to pack your equipment up and to go to the different areas.
You have a day job?
Yeah, we have a day job, actually. Another business owner.
But it's fun. In talking about how things have changed, I can remember the first time this ever happened. I'm not sure, but I always liked to think that the late Ben Everest and I almost invented this thing that you do way back in the early 1960s. We got our old record players, 45 record players, some speakers and amplifiers, and went to a local establishment, and we started a thing called Spinorama. Nobody was doing it before. Nobody had ever heard of it before. It was only live music, and people loved it.
Right.
And then a couple years later, I went to a wedding in Montreal in the early 70s. And instead of a live band, there was a DJ with much better equipment than we had. And he had LPs and 45s by the thousands. And this was a high-class wedding, and this guy made a tremendous impression. And after that, we saw it a lot.
Well, you bring up a point with mobile DJs. You have variety, the music variety that you're able to spin. And it's like Mr. Ferguson and I were speaking, it's the preferences of the crowd if they prefer a live band versus a DJ. So there's, different taste out there. When you bring up Ben Everest, certainly a man that I've looked up to, I've worked with Ben back in the late 80s with the StarQuest 87. And
that was fun.
It was a great time. Probably that was the first time I was really introduced to disc jockeying, and he probably was a pedestal to why I'm doing it today. So he was a great joy to work with and deeply missed.
I know this is something you really enjoy, and you're very, very good at it, by the way.
Well, thank you, Mr. Little. I appreciate that.
I've seen you at a lot of good functions, and it's fun because you get to interact with people directly.
That's the key, interactiveness. With the mobile DJs, you want to be interactive with your crowd, the icebreakers, to do the different activities with the crowd, to bring them to the dance floor, and to take the requests. You want to be as personable as you can with the crowd, play what they want to hear. That's what it's all about. For each crowd, all the music variety varies. So you play what they want to hear and hope that they enjoy themselves.
Jeff, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the interview.
Have a great day.
You too.
You thought I was a ventriloquist and had a tiny drum set behind my back as we were interviewing Jeff? No, it was Tim Ferguson. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice
fun?
to see you today.
I'm great to be here. Are you having fun with the kids?
Yes, I'm having a lot of fun. It's an interesting day. It gives me a chance to give something back to the community that I've been doing for a long time. I learned music in the local school system, though not at this school, down in Champlain at Northeastern Clinton. I took advantage of the music program starting in 5th grade.
Fifth grade?
Yeah, that goes back a few years. I've been playing drums since 5th grade. I've been playing semi-professional in local bands since 18 years old. I'm 38 now, so I've been playing a long time. It's a lot of fun.
So what are the kids asking you? Interesting questions?
Oh, they sure are. They're asking what things are made of. What are the drums made of? They think they're made of steel. They're actually made of wood. What are the cymbals made of? They want to know that. One kid asked me if it was a record because it looks like a record with grooves on it. They ask a lot of questions. They ask, how do I move both legs and both arms all at different beats and different times? They just want to know how the whole thing comes together. I've also brought a guitar. That I play a little bit of guitar at home, and I write my own songs and stuff, and I brought that to play for them as well, and just to show them a little bit difference about the guitar, and because I can play it a little bit, I'm limited when it comes to guitar. However, it's a lot of fun.
I love the acoustic guitar, and we're talking a great deal today on this 7th Annual Career Day about how things have changed through the years, and a lot of people who have modern electronic guitars and can manufacture sound electronically and digitally still go back home and play the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that I enjoy playing drums, which is an acoustic instrument. I also like to play acoustic guitar. I own an electric guitar, but I don't play it. I'm just not good at it. It's not the sound that I like. I like the sound of acoustic. I like the fact that I can pick it up and walk out in my back lawn and plunk down anywhere that I want and sit and play, or walk off into the woods and play. My drums, if I was crazy enough and wanted to lug them along into the woods, I could too, and I would need no power. So it's kind of ironic that I've chosen two forms of acoustic instrument that I like.
There's an old joke. I gave my son a set of drums for Christmas, and for his birthday I gave him a jackknife. Did you have problems making noise in the basement when you were a kid, or what?
Yeah, I sure did. My dad was very good about it, though. I bought my first drum set when I was in 5th grade, and he was very good about it. He knew it was going to be loud. He knew it was going to be tough. A barn's a barn, Hey, they put me out in the barn, set up my drums. I would have all the neighborhood kids over there clapping.
They made you sleep there for 6 years.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun, and I urge all the kids to get out there and learn, take advantage of the school music programs. Not only is this fun, I meet a lot of great people, I do a lot of fun things, I make extra money. It's just a lot of fun, and it's a good way to enjoy your free time.
You're preaching to the choir when you're talking about music and how it enhances your quality of life, something we talk about a great deal on this program, but I can't imagine what my life would have been like without music. Performing for many years before getting into the radio business, and then playing other people's music for all those years. I would be lost now.
Yeah.
If we had some guests over for dinner last night. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of tapes of old-time music. We just played some music of the 40s and cranked it up during dinner, and it sounded like the old singers and bands were right there with us.
Yes.
Man, it's delicious.
Well, I enjoy music around the house. Matter of fact, during dinner every night, when we have dinner as a family, we put on music. We put on classical music, or we'll put on some old jazz. Nothing too aggressive, because you want to keep it as background music so we can enjoy each other's conversation at dinner. I get up in the morning, first thing I do is come downstairs, turn on some lights, and I put on the radio station just to have music. Music travels wherever I go. Music is a traveling thing. It can go with you. It can be anywhere you want it to be, and that's my life. Music revolves around my life, or I revolve around music.
The best part of it is, if I know you, even when there's no music playing around you, it's going on in your head.
Exactly.
How many times does a tune get in your head, or a riff, or something you've done, and you can't get it out for 3 days?
Often. My wife, she says I tap my feet in bed at night when we're sleeping to the beat of the music. So
the worst thing that happens to me is if a Christmas tune gets in my head in July, and I find myself walking through Walmart whistling Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. This happened to me a couple of months ago because one of those little bears or something in the store had a recording in it, and I pushed a button like the little kid in me when I went by, and it started that song. So it stayed in my head for another 3 days.
Yeah, music has that ability. Music is so enjoyable, and like I say, it brings smiles to everybody's face. Music is not a sad thing, though music can be sad at times in theater and in movies. Generally, music is a toe tapper, and it brings a smile to everybody's face, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
I've always loved drums and people who play the drums, and it used to make me crazy when somebody would walk up to a drummer and say, "Didn't you ever think of taking up a real instrument?"
Yeah, people have said different things, but I think people respect it more when they see you. To sit here and play drums for the kids, they enjoy it because it's something they've never seen. But to see it done with a group of other musicians and playing at different volume levels and playing different types of drum music with different slow songs or a fast song or an old jig or a fiddle tune, people respect it more, and I've come a long way in my drumming. I've been playing an awful long time, and I'm still learning. And I don't mind what people say. I got big shoulders. I just let it slide right off.
Oh, you are terrific. What are some of your idols in the business down through the years?
Oh, I've drumming idols. Obviously, Buddy Rich. I've seen Buddy Rich perform live 5 times. Drummers like Phil Collins, Gene Krupa, all these old drummers. Though I don't listen to their music a whole lot, they're just inspiring because when you see old videos of these guys playing, it's phenomenal.
Each was special in their own way, weren't they?
Absolutely. Different forms of music, different style of music, different music structures, and it's just a real enjoyable thing. The drums, I don't know what made me pick it. One day in 5th grade, the music teacher came in and says, "Okay, who wants to be in band?" I stuck up my hand, and he said, "Well, what do you want to play?" And I said, "Drums." And that's how it started. I had no knowledge prior to that.
From then to now has been a very interesting path, hasn't it?
And a long path, and it's been a lot of fun. I don't regret it at all.
That's great. Tim, thanks for talking with us a minute.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
We were hoping to go outside and find some of those Raiders of the Lost Arts, and look who walks by. We have had so much fun here today. It's the 7th annual Career Day at Northern Adirondack Central School down here at the elementary school. Bernie and the whole crew, we thank them so much for inviting us down here today. We've had a great deal of fun. We've met some interesting people, and best of all, we watched kids learning and being inspired by something adults tell them, and that's a decent thing to do. We hope they all go tell their parents. We hope if you are involved in another school in the North Country, you're inspired by what happens here at Northern Adirondack, and maybe your career day will have an extra spark next time around. Thank you for joining us, as always, with this program, and who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.
Welcome to North Country Commerce, a business and community service of the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce.
Simple answers when you talk about what is the impact of two economies that are fully integrating at every level. And that's what I'm most excited about. I'm also excited because what you're going to see is that, frankly, those sectors that we would most want to be the growing ones, the ones that most affect the working person and families and taxpayers in Clinton County, happen to be all the ones that grew and grew substantially. Even while some others tailed off for various reasons that this gave us a chance to take a look at and understand some things that are going on. I'm not going to say anything more for now. I'll be back as the morning goes on. But we have with us to start off this morning a very special guest, Mary Pendleton, U.S. Consul General in Montreal. We had the pleasure of meeting Mary, I guess a little over a year now, when she first came to her new mission in Montreal, and to establish a relationship with her and her people and her staff at the consulate. And it's been a very important relationship to us since then. And something as important as what we're reflecting in these numbers today, it means having a relationship with everybody that can help us deal with, understand, establish relationships, expand our horizons in the Montreal region and Quebec is darn important to us. And Mary has just been one of many, but certainly one of the most important and helpful partners of our Can-Am connection. Mary? I'd like to come up and get things started this morning.
It's really nice to be down here with you again. I just heard that you don't like our statistics, so maybe I shouldn't give you any U.S. government statistics. But yeah, I will. I just wanted to say a few words about the state of the relations between the United States and Canada. They continue to be excellent, as we all know. Gary mentioned the $1 billion a day that crosses the border. I think that's actually goods and services, so it's not totally things that go in boxes. And you'll hear today, very shortly, what that means to your economy. Another statistic I'd like to mention, I'm sure that the statistics you're going to hear for here, it's good news. On the global picture, the U.S. goods, the export of U.S. goods and services to the world declined